You just closed the biggest deal of your quarter. It's 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The commission notification hits your phone before you've even logged out of your CRM. And before your laptop screen goes dark, DoorDash is already open and you're ordering the $34 steak burrito bowl you would never touch on a regular Tuesday. That's not a coincidence. That's not "you deserve a treat." That's a specific mechanism firing in your brain the second it decides you've earned something. And it's the exact reason people who feel more motivated about money often end up further from their goals, not closer. Here's what's actually happening in that moment, and why it keeps happening no matter how many finance podcasts you've listened to on your commute. The most obvious piece of this is something researchers Rand Kivetz and Itamar Simonson identified back in 2002. They found that the more effort someone believes they've put in, the more they shift their preferences towards luxury rewards over practical ones. Not because the money situation changed, because the feeling of having worked hard changes what feels acceptable to buy. A decade later, researchers Jesse DeWitt Huberts, Catherine Evers, and Denise DeRitter ran an experiment that nailed this down even further. They had people complete tasks and told half of them they'd worked harder than they actually had. Those people ate more snacks afterward, not because they were hungrier, not because their willpower was depleted, but because they had a justification ready. I worked hard, so this is fine. That's the whole mechanism. It's called self-licensing, and it doesn't require you to actually work hard. It just requires you to believe you did. Which is exactly why closing one deal at 4:47 p.m. feels like enough evidence to greenlight a $34 burrito bowl. Your brain doesn't need 3 months of consistent effort. It needs one win it can point to. Now stack the second piece on top of that. You're not paying cash for that burrito bowl. You're tapping a card that's already saved in the app. And that matters more than people think. Back in 1998, behavioral economists Drazen Prelec and George Lowenstein ran a study where people bid on tickets and electronics using either cash or credit cards. The average bid using a credit card came in nearly double what people were willing to pay in cash for the exact same item. Same person, same product, same budget. The only thing that changed was how disconnected the payment felt from the moment of loss. They called it the pain of paying, and it's not a metaphor. Handing over cash registers as loss in a way that swiping a card, or worse, tapping your phone, just doesn't. So now you've got a self-licensing moment on top of a payment method that's specifically designed to not feel like spending. That combination is where the money actually leaves your account without you clocking it as a decision at all. Here's where it gets less obvious. You know you should be saving. You've probably told yourself more than once, starting next paycheck, I'm putting money away, and you meant it. The problem is, you were making that promise as the version of you who currently feels motivated, and that version doesn't exist 2 weeks from now. Economists Ted O'Donohue and Matthew Ravin spent years studying this exact gap. Their research on present bias shows that people consistently expect future them to have more discipline than their current self actually has. They even split people into 2 groups: the naive, who genuinely believe future them will follow through, and the sophisticated, who at least know they'll struggle and try to build in guardrails ahead of time. Most people fall into the naive camp without realizing it. You're not lying to yourself on purpose. You just keep handing responsibility to a future version of you that's going to feel exactly as unmotivated as you do most Tuesdays, the ones without a big commission check. And here's the part that's going to sting a little because it's aimed directly at anyone watching a video like this one. In 2014, researchers Daniel Fernandez, John Lynch, and Richard Niedermeyer published a massive analysis covering 168 papers and over 200 individual studies on financial education. Their finding: financial education programs explain about 0.1% of the variance in people's actual financial behavior. Not 10%, 0.1. And whatever small effect exists fades out almost completely once you get roughly 20 months past the education itself. Meaning the finance book you read in January, the budgeting course you took last spring, the YouTube channel you've been binging, none of that is moving the needle on what you actually do with your money in any way that's held up under real research. And here's the twist. Watching this content, feeling informed, feeling like you're doing the work on your money mindset, that feeling itself can become another self-licensing trigger. I've been so responsible learning about this stuff, I've earned a night off from worrying about it. The information doesn't fix the pattern. Sometimes it just becomes fuel for it. So you've got effort creating permission getting executed through a payment method built to numb the loss, a future version of yourself getting handed promises your current self has no evidence you'll keep. And on top of it all, the education you're consuming to try to fix this barely touches the actual behavior. That's not 4 separate problems. That's one loop running every time you feel like you've earned something. Let's go back to 4:47 p.m. Same deal just closed, same commission notification, same DoorDash app already muscle memory open on your phone. But this time, before you tap place order, you do one thing. You switch apps just for 10 seconds and open your banking app. Not to look at what you technically can afford, not to do math, just to look at the actual numbers sitting there, after rent, after the car payment, after everything that's already spoken for. You let that number be the thing you see instead of the $34 burrito bowl and the good feeling attached to it. Then you go back to DoorDash. Maybe you still order it, maybe you don't. That's not the point. The point is, you interrupted the loop long enough for the actual number to compete with the feeling, instead of letting the feeling decide alone. Here's how you'll know it's happening to you this week, without needing to wait for a commission check. It's not going to be some dramatic moment. It's going to be small. It's the second your paycheck notification lands Friday morning, and within about 90 seconds, you find yourself opening Amazon or Target's app just to look. It's the exact feeling of relief after finally finishing a task you'd been dreading for days, and how that relief seems to come with a receipt attached to it. That specific feeling, pride, relief, I did the thing, showing up right before your thumb opens a shopping app, that's the moment. Not later, not next time you feel the urge to spend in some vague future scenario. This week, the first time you feel proud of yourself for something, watch what your hands do in the next 5 minutes. That feeling of deserving it is what's keeping you broke. Not because you're undisciplined, not because you don't understand money, because the exact moment you feel best about yourself is the exact moment your brain hands out permission slips. And permission slips don't show up on a bank statement until 3 days later. So here's the actual question tied to what just happened in your life today. The next time you finish something hard and your thumb goes straight for an app before your brain even catches up, what number are you going to look at first? The price or the balance? If this is the first time someone's actually walked you through why this keeps happening instead of just telling you to budget better, there's more of this waiting for you every week.